So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are joining us from. I'm Annette Richmond. This is Content Marketing School, and I'm so excited to have Carlos with me today. We met at a networking event in December and we were chatting, and I was like, oh my gosh, this guy's got to come on my show because so many people I know, audience, work from home. We're trying to be healthy and we need some help. So, for anyone who doesn't know you, please tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Well, it's great to be on your show, Annette. Thank you for inviting me. My name is Carlos Reyes. I'm a health coach, and I'm about to celebrate my 35th anniversary in the health and fitness industry. I started out as a personal trainer and transitioned into health coaching, mainly because I've been able to establish long-term relationships with many of my clients. And so we've transitioned from being, from working out to being healthy and well.
Well, thank you so much. I'm sorry, I was just making sure that we were up and running live on LinkedIn and on Instagram. So, everyone, including me, has good intentions. We go into the new year. I just had my annual, and my doctor's like, and I'm like, yeah, I know, and I promise I'm gonna be more proactive with my exercise and taking care of myself. And I mentioned to you before we went live that I saw that you just posted something about motivation. People
Mhm.
are already losing motivation. I think you said 21 days in, and it's kind of like downhill. Can you talk a little bit about that? I was reading it. Can you share some of the things that you mentioned?
Absolutely. So I think the misconception is that you can find motivation. You can look for motivation, right? And that's going to get you to start taking better care of yourself, prioritizing your self-care, exercising, making better new food choices, right?
Mhm.
Getting more sleep, de-stressing. It actually doesn't work that way. The motivation comes post. What I mean by that is you have to decide exactly what it is that you want to accomplish in terms of your health and well-being, right? So if you say that I want to lose 30 pounds, right? That's a goal, right?
Mhm.
That's future, right? Next question is, why is that important to you? Once you can establish what you want and then why, and you start moving towards that goal, that's where your motivation comes in. So your motivation comes in when you start seeing results, when you start feeling better, when you start thinking or being conscious about the food choices that you're making, when you start to sleep better, when you have better interpersonal relationships with your loved ones, with your coworkers, right? And so that's where the motivation comes in. And so I tell my clients, when something good happens to you, you wake up the next morning without back pain, you feel more energized throughout the day, right? You
Mhm.
smile and somebody smiled back at you, right? Because you were feeling good, because you're taking better care of yourself. That's the well of motivation. You go back to those things, right? When you don't feel like working out, or
Mhm.
when you're too tired, right? Or when life gets in the way.
So, I hear that, and one of the things that I think, mistake that I make. You talk about losing 30 pounds. Well, I'd like to lose 10. I'd like to lose 10. I'd like to be less tired and less stressed. And I know that if I exercise, I will be, my physical body, I will be less stressed, sleep better, etc. So there is that. But I hear a lot of people talking about when they talk about making changes, to make small changes, like just, say that I have a Peloton, say, oh, I'll get on the Peloton for 5 minutes. So, I mean, do you advocate that to try to make small changes, or is it better to, what's your advice when it comes to like that kind of thing?
It depends on who I'm working with, but usually, yeah, because here's the thing, right? If you look at exercise recommendations, the American College of Sports Medicine is like the premier fitness organization. They're the
Mhm.
gold standard, right? And they have exercise recommendations that you want to do cardiovascular exercise or some kind of aerobic exercise every single day for about 30 minutes. You want to weight train 2 to 3 times a week. You want to do some mobility. You want to decrease your stress, right? You
Mhm.
want to get better sleep. I mean, think about that list of things that
Yeah.
all of these things that you want to do. For many people, it's overwhelming. It's just
Mhm.
too much. I can't do all of that. Now, the clients that I work with are 50 and above. They're business owners, they're CEOs, they're self-employed, they're head of households. They have so many things that they have to take care of, and they're being pulled in so many directions that if you then add all of those things to their to-do list, it's not going to happen.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so you can pick something, or you can pick just little bits of everything and try to incorporate that into their everyday lives. So yeah, that's where I would start. Now, obviously, that's a starting point. You want to build upon that. But if you can get somebody to make one change, even just one, whether it's, going for a walk in the middle of the day so they can clear their minds and they can get some exercise in or some steps. When they can do that on a regular basis, right? Then you start adding on to that. And
Mhm.
oftentimes what ends up happening, it becomes a sort of a snowball effect. They're feeling better, they're sleeping better, they're having better interactions with the people around them. And that's where the motivation steps in. That's where the motivation really kicks in. Um, Once you get to that point, then it's about sharing that with the people around you. I'm trying to take better care of myself so I can
Mhm.
take better care of you. And
Yeah.
that can also be a very powerful motivator.
Well, thank you for that because that's something that I'm kind of hoping to be able to do, inspire others that I live with to be healthier too.
Mhm.
And I'm glad we kind of went down this way because I wanted to ask you what are some of the mistakes people make, and it sounds like the biggest one is trying to plan and do like too much, like, oh, I'm going to go to the gym every day now, and or whatever. And so that sounds like the biggest problem for people is just to to try to do too much or think they're going to overestimate what they can do. Are there any are there any other maybe one or two things other than that people are doing that it just puts them um they start off badly because they're doing these things.
Mhm. I think the main thing that most people do, I don't want to use to use the word wrong, but the one thing the mistake that most people
Okay.
make is they they don't internalize what they want to do. And what I mean by that is people want six-pack abs, people want to lose 30 pounds, people want to do this, people want to do that, people want to touch their toes. But what exactly does that mean to you, right? So when people say they want to be fit, what exactly does that mean to you? And I think what happens is they leapfrog over that, right? And they go to the shiny thing, the newest workout. This is how you're going to get six-pack abs. This is how you're going to lose 30 pounds in 30 days. This is how you're, going to get rid of your back pain forever,
Hmm.
right? And so once you leapfrog over why that's important to you, then you're adhering to somebody else's idea of what it means to be fit.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so usually when I work with a new client, let's say the first question I ask them is, what does that mean? What does
Hmm.
that look like? And then how do we incorporate that into your daily life, right? And then how do we consistently get you to do that on a regular basis? So it's a three-step process, right? Why is that
Uh-huh.
important? What is it that you want to accomplish? Why is that important? And how are we going to accomplish that?
Okay. So I'm seeing lots of love coming from LinkedIn as I'm looking over. I'm seeing lots of people heart sending up love for what you're saying. So
That's
you're
great.
definitely
Let,
resonating with people that are listening.
Well, let's
And
spread the love because a sense of community.
I know
Well, a
absolutely,
sense of
right?
community is a big deal, right? If you have a support system,
Yeah.
then that often can make the difference between whether you're just going to do this for a while or whether
Mhm.
you're going to do this over the long term.
Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Oh yeah, sure. So, when people ask me, well, how do I stay consistent with my exercise, right?
Mhm.
I use the three P's. It's called I call it the three P's.
Okay.
You post it, and literally, like, you take a Post-it note, you write it down, or you write it on your calendar somewhere where you can see it, which is a reminder, right?
Mhm.
And then you plan it. So if I'm going to work out, what time am I going to work out? What am I going to do during that workout? What am I going to concentrate on? Am I going to do just cardio? Am I going to do weight training? Am I going to do mobility? Am I going to do a combination of all three, right? And how much am I going to do? 30 minutes of cardio and 20 minutes of weight training, 10 minutes of mobility, right?
Mhm.
And then the last one, which is community, promote it. Literally promote it. You tell everybody who's important to you, everybody in your life, right? Your spouse, your significant other, your husband, your wife, the head of the household, even your coworkers, that
Mhm.
you are trying to take better care of yourself. Why is that important? Because they'll keep you accountable. They'll be your cheerleaders. You go, right? And
Mhm.
in many cases, they'll join you. They'll be right. They'll want you. You will motivate them. They will motivate you. And so
Mhm.
that support system, for example, let's say, today, and you say to me, Carlos, I'm going out with some friends to have some drinks. Would you like to join us? And I say to you, well, I was planning on going to the gym. Right? You go off with your friends, you have your drinks, and I don't go to the gym. The next day or tomorrow, when you see me, you ask me, you say, Carlos, how was the gym? How do you think that's going to make me feel?
Yeah.
Right? And it's not about making you feel bad. It's not any of that. This is not a guilt trip. It's
Mhm.
about supporting the being a support system to those you love, right?
Mhm.
Because if I'm taking better care of myself, I'm going to be able to take better care of you when
Yeah.
we get to work tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
If we're
Yeah.
collaborating on a project and I'm focused and I'm energized, right? That's going to just add to our collaborative effort. Whether it's your family, whether it's your spouse, it doesn't really matter. Your coworkers. If you're taking better care of yourself, you're able to contribute and take care of others much better.
Yeah, no, I love that. And that's one of the biggest benefits, I think, besides getting whatever it is that you're looking to do, whether it's be healthier, more successful in your business. A lot of the stuff of working with a coach or someone like you
Uh-huh.
is that it keeps you accountable.
Mhm.
And I belong to an accountability pod for a program that I'm working on right now. And when you're getting to have that meeting tomorrow, that you better start getting stuff done today. So
Mhm.
so I love that because it is so true. And one of the things that I noticed, because you mentioned you're a personal trainer and also a health and wellness coach. So can you talk about what the difference is? Because I'm not quite sure. What is the difference betwixt the two of those? And how do they
Well,
kind of work together? Like I think of the personal trainer is more with the physical body, but maybe the
mhm.
health and wellness more with the mind.
Yeah. So, I guess the best way for me to describe it is to tell you, or to go back to earlier when I said I've been able to establish long-term relationships with many of my clients.
Mhm.
One of my clients I've been working with for 28 years. So when we started, I was actually working with her husband, and we started working out together, and we obviously hit it off. I've trained her husband, her two kids, through multiple dogs. Um, so the husband is gone, the kids are grown and they're gone. The dogs, unfortunately, have passed away, but we're still together for 28 years. And so I've been able to do that with a number of my clients. What I've discovered over the years is most of those clients came to me because they wanted to make a physical change. They
Mhm.
wanted to have six-pack abs, or they wanted to lose some weight, or they wanted to get rid of their back pain. this client who I've been working with for 28 years. That's why we started working together. She wanted to get rid of her back pain. We've been successful at that. As the years have passed and they've become more successful, they've had children, a couple of my clients are now taking care of their parents.
Yeah.
So it's no longer about just the physical. Now we're talking about the mental and the emotional, right? Because now they're under a tremendous amount of stress coming from multiple directions, like I mentioned earlier. So when I decided to get my health coach certification, it was because I was on parallel paths with my clients. They were getting older, I was getting older, our lives were becoming more complicated, right? And we were becoming overwhelmed, overstressed. And so I made a decision, how can I help my clients as well as myself deal with that, right? So it's not just about, so at that point, it became no longer about just the physical, but the mental and the emotional. And that's when I went to Well Coaches Corporation and I got my Well Coaches certification. And that has really helped me help my clients, because some of my clients now have had cancer scares. This client who I've been working with for 28 years is a 2-time cancer survivor. And so if I hadn't had my health coach training, I wouldn't have been able to understand what she was going through. Now, she has been diagnosed with breast cancer twice. I'm a male. Now, men do get breast cancer, but
Yes.
I didn't have a connection point, right? And so the Well Coaches certification or the Well Coaches training helped me be more empathic and understand what she was going through.
Okay. So so the wellness is more the whole body, the stress and all of that.
It's a holistic way of looking at the person that you're working with, right? And so one of the things that I do when I meet my clients is the first thing I ask them is, how are you doing? I take copious notes so I know what we did the last time and any issue that was going on for them the last time. And so when we meet, I try to get those things out of the way. Let's address those things. Were you having pain? You were having this work issue. You were having this, whatever issue. How is that going now? And the reason I do that is because especially if we're going to work out, I want to make sure that they're invested and they're focused on what we're going to do for the next hour. Oftentimes what's happening in their outside world can invade the work that we're doing together. And so I try to either suppress that, at least for the hour, or completely eliminate that so that we can get what we need to do done. So yeah, it's a holistic way of looking at my clients, and it's a holistic way of helping them continue to live healthy and well.
It reminds me of a quote that I've heard recently, and it's interesting because I listened to a podcast about podcasting, and the person now who it's called Podcasting Business School, and the person who does the podcast, that's now his business, but he used to be in the health industry. He used to, before getting into this other field, and one of the things that he's talked about is the idea that when things get tracked and measured, they're successful. And so there is that important thing of tracking. So if I can just ask you briefly, and then I have a follow-up question for you. What's a good way for someone to track? Like if I'm not working with a coach, how can I sort of track my progress besides like a tape measure or something like that?
Well, I'm old school. Like I
Okay.
don't use many apps, and whenever I work with somebody, I just recently had a phone call with a potential client who asked me, "Well, what app do you use?" And it's like, I don't use apps. I don't use apps.
Okay.
I work. It's a collaborative.
Mhm.
I love the collaborative aspect of what I do. So we don't use apps. We communicate in other ways. And so to answer your question in the simplest way, write it down. That's what
Okay.
I do.
Yep.
Just write it down. You
Mhm.
write down, uh, if you are an app person or if you are an electronic person, use that. But the main point, just like you said, is you need to track, right? It's like in
Mhm.
business. If you don't know your numbers, you don't know your
Yeah.
business. If you don't know how much weight you were using at the gym, if you don't know how many minutes you did on the treadmill, at what um, incline and at what speed, then
Mhm.
you won't have a baseline to be able to progress, right?
Okay. No, so it could be as simple as I have a journal or I have a day planner. I have a calendar and I mark on my big wall calendar the days that I exercise. So it can be simple as that, Excel spreadsheet, if you want to use an app like Notion or something like that. But it is that keeping track of that. So I love that, and I'm glad that you mentioned it. So be, as we're getting, the time goes by so quickly, and I want to make sure to ask you for um, three tips of things that people can do that will not overwhelm them, but will really, create change. In their physical being, whether it's mental, physical. You know, if you can give us like three, not all your trade secrets, of course, but if you can give us like three things different things that people can do to help them.
Well, these are definitely not secrets because we don't need any more information. The
Okay.
information is the information is out there. It's in the action, right?
Okay.
And so, I guess to answer your question because in the simplest way, without overwhelming anybody, is
Mhm.
again go back to what it is that you want to accomplish, right? Um, Most of the people who I work with are over 50, and they came to me, for example. Um, One of my clients came to me because he couldn't tie his own shoes.
Yeah.
And his wife said to him, I'm tired of getting, this is a true story. I'm tired of getting down on my knees and tying your own shoes. You have to do something about this. He had just celebrated his 70th birthday. So, what I would suggest is pick what is that one thing that you think is going to make a difference in your health and well being, right? Then figure out why that's important. Do you want to get down on the ground to play with your grandkids? Do you want to go for long walks with your significant other, right? Do you want to go travel and hike the Himalayan mountains or go on through the Amazon jungle? And then what's that one thing that you can do to start to make that happen? And it
Okay.
can be it can be something as simple as being more conscious about what you eat, right? Thinking about what you're putting in your mouth, right? So Michelle May has this great uh, sort of frame, whereas you ask yourself, "Am I hungry?" And if you're not hungry, then why are you about to eat something, right? Because the
Yeah.
because we eat for myriad of reasons. We eat when we're hungry, we eat when we're bored, we eat when we're depressed, we eat when we're happy, right? We eat
Mhm.
because we have nothing better to do, we eat in front of the TV. And so that's one thing that anybody can do: be more conscious about what you eat, and then move more. It can be something as simple as going for a 5-minute walk in the middle of the day, or going up the stairs instead of the elevator. And you've heard all of this before,
Mhm.
but oftentimes it's like exercise, right? The way you get stronger is you go to the gym and you pick up a weight and you pick it up for 10 repetitions. When that becomes easy, you pick it up for 12 repetitions. When that becomes easy, you pick it up for 15 repetitions. When that
Mhm.
becomes easy, you increase the weight. So it's about doing something repetitively over a long period of time, which is what's going to make you stronger, healthier, and more well.
Okay, well, that's great. So I'm gonna share my screen, I should say, and to your LinkedIn profile, which is they can find you.
Hmm.
And you do share some good content here. As I mentioned, you have things in your featured section, and then here's the post on motivation that I was talking about. And so, are you open to connecting with people?
Anybody and everyone. So I'm,
Okay.
I'm more than happy to share my thoughts if people are willing to hear and connect with people. Yes, absolutely.
Well, I love that you say that. And it's interesting when you talk about things you put in your mouth and the last, I would say, corporate job that I had just killed me. I mean, it sucked the soul right out of me every day when I went there. I was just and across the street from my office was a sandwich shop that's been was there forever. Delicious Reuben sandwiches, which I love. And I was there every day comforting myself with the food, and I gained like 20 pounds.
Mm.
And and it's like you don't even realize it. I look back now and I see pictures of me from them come up, and I'm like horrified. But it is true. There's so many things that we consume and we just don't even think about it. So
Yeah.
um so as we are winding down, goes by so fast. Um I always like to ask my guests because I feel like we had an interesting discussion. I've learned some things. I could tell from the law of coming up on LinkedIn that other people have as well. Um, what would you like to leave as sort of your final thoughts, whatever that, we haven't talked about, but you think is important for, people to know?
Well, we've talked about it, but my message
Hmm.
to everybody who's listening is no one is ever going to take better care of you than you, because no one knows what you want, why you want it, and how you're going to get it. And so prioritize your self-care, because when you do that, you become more efficient, more effective at everything you do, and you're better able to take care of everything and everyone who relies on your health and well-being.
Yeah, it's I think so many of us, like, I always feel like I don't have the time because I have this to do and that to do. But it is, I've heard from so many people, and I know for myself, if I am exercising regularly, that I feel better and I do better. But it's just really challenging sometimes. But it's that old, what, take, as they tell you on the plane, take the
Put your
air
mask
off
on first.
and put it on yourself first.
That's right. That's
But
right. Yeah,
but I love
absolutely.
that. I love the message. So I thank you so much for joining me today. It was such a treat to chat with you. And it's just a great lesson for me and others. You never know who you're gonna meet when you go to an event. And we were there kind of with different parties
Mhm.
of people.
Yeah,
Um and talk to everybody because you never know
you never know.
who
That's
who
right.
you're gonna meet.
That's right.
So, again, I thank you so much for being with me today, and everyone else, thanks so much for being here, and I will be catching you, the next time.
So it was great to be here, Annette. Thank you for inviting me.